I always thought my grandpa's secrets were harmless. Old fishing stories, puzzle boxes, that kind of thing. But the day I stepped back into his empty house, something felt different. His study smelled like cedar and dust, and the silence almost felt like it was waiting for me. On his desk lay a single envelope, cream-colored, slightly worn, my name written in his familiar handwriting, but underneath it, 4 words that froze me in place. For when she's ready. Ready for what? I had no idea. My fingers trembled as I opened it. Instead of a letter, a small silver key slid into my palm. Cold, light, mysterious. Then a short note. Your future is bigger than the world you see. Follow the key. Trust what you find. I read it again and again, searching for meaning between the lines. Grandpa loved riddles, but this didn't feel playful. It felt serious, heavy, like something he'd been holding back for years. That night, sleep refused to come. The key kept calling to me from the nightstand. So by sunrise, I knew where I had to start. The old tool shed behind the house. Inside, it was exactly how he'd left it. Organized chaos. Jars, tools, drawers, boxes. I checked every lock I could find. Nothing fit. I almost gave up until I spotted an old metal cash box on the top shelf. It looked useless, dented, barely worth noticing. But when I wiped the dust off, there it was, a tiny keyhole. The key slid in perfectly, the lock clicked, and just like that, my life split into before and after. Inside the box weren't coins or keepsakes, but bank papers, dozens, and right on top, a statement showing an amount that made my knees weaken, $850,000, and a note beneath it that made my blood run cold. Not everyone wants you to find this. Those words dug into me like thorns. Who wouldn't want me to find this? What was Grandpa trying to warn me about? I spread the papers across my bed, trying to make sense of decades of statements and letters. Grandpa had been building this fund long before I was even born. The growth was steady, intentional, almost obsessive. Then I found a photo tucked between the documents. Grandpa standing beside a man I didn't recognize, both tense, not smiling. On the back of the photo, just one word was scrawled: debt. My chest tightened. This wasn't just savings. There was a story behind this, a heavy one. Before I could connect the dots, footsteps echoed behind me. Slow, heavy, familiar. I turned, and there stood Uncle Ray. He leaned in the doorway, eyes fixed on the open box, like he'd been waiting for this moment. "So," he said quietly, "you finally found what he hid from me." My stomach twisted. "You knew about this?" He stepped closer, expression dark. "He stole that fund. From our family. From me." It felt like the floor dropped. "Stole? Grandpa?" Ray scoffed. "You think he was perfect? That money belonged to both families. He took it after his business partner bailed, and he used it to play hero for you." I shook my head. "That doesn't make sense. Grandpa wasn't like that." "You don't know everything," Ray shot back. "He ruined us." The bitterness in his voice was real, sharp, deep. Then he reached for the box and instinct took over. I pulled it close. "Don't!" The way he glared at me made every muscle lock up. "You think that money belongs to you?" Ray whispered. "You think it's clean?" Suddenly, Grandpa's warning felt terrifyingly real. I bolted past him, clutching the box like it held my heartbeat. Back in my room, door locked, I dumped everything onto the bed again. That's when I found something I'd missed. A thin leather notebook. Grandpa's handwriting on the first page. My debt will never be financial. My debt is to her future. And just like that, I knew this story was far messier than Ray made it sound. The notebook was full of 30 years of notes, contributions, struggles, arguments with a business partner, fears of money disappearing, warnings he'd written to himself. But then I found the final entry, written so shakily it hurt to read. If she finds the truth, she must choose what to do. I protected the fund for her, but the truth has two sides, and both are painful. My pulse throbbed. Grandpa wasn't innocent, but he wasn't a thief. Something had broken in that old partnership. Something involving betrayal. My phone buzzed suddenly. A message from an unknown number. "You're looking in the wrong place. Meet me." And an address. My stomach knotted when I read it. It was the home of Grandpa's former business partner. Against every instinct I had, I went. He opened the door slowly, studying my face with weary eyes. "You look just like him," he murmured. "Come in." Inside, the air smelled of stale tea and old carpet. I sat across from him, gripping the backpack with the box inside it. "You found the fund, the one he and I created." My breath hitched. "Can you tell me what really happened?" He nodded, settling into his chair. "The fund was meant for both families, but money began disappearing. I thought he was stealing, he thought I was. Years of suspicion, anger, pride, it all collapsed. Then who took the money?" I whispered. He looked down at his hands. "Someone close to him. Someone he refused to expose." A chill washed over me. Someone close. Someone in the family. Before he could say more, he added something that shattered everything. "Your grandfather didn't steal the remaining money. He protected it, rebuilt it, alone. The guilt, the secrets, the silence, the cold distance between families, it all made a twisted kind of sense." I stepped outside, heart heavy, and then a shadow moved near the trees. "Ray." He exhaled, exhausted. "I knew you'd come here." Fear crawled into my throat. "Did you steal the money?" He shook his head. "No, but I know who did." Ray's face looked older in the streetlight, tired, defeated, but strangely honest. "It wasn't Grandpa, and it wasn't his partner," he said quietly. "It was Dad." I blinked. "Dad? Your dad?" He nodded. "My father. Your great-uncle. He was drowning in debt. Grandpa found out, confronted him, but instead of exposing him, he protected him, protected all of us." My throat tightened. I had never even considered him. He died years ago, and everyone spoke of him like a troubled but harmless man. Ray continued, voice trembling. "When the partnership collapsed, Grandpa took what was left of the fund to keep it from being drained further, but I didn't know that. I just saw him walking away with everything." "So you hated him," I murmured. "For decades." Ray's eyes watered. "And he let me hate him, because if he defended himself, he'd have to expose Dad." The weight of it all pressed into my chest. Grandpa carried guilt. Ray carried resentment. The business partner carried regret. And the true thief never even lived long enough to face what he'd done. For a moment, neither of us moved. The night air felt still, heavy, like the truth had finally exhausted itself. "I'm sorry," Ray said quietly, "for everything. I was wrong, and I shouldn't have tried to grab that box. I just didn't want to believe I spent my life angry for nothing. I nodded, wiping my face. We can fix it, but not if we keep repeating what happened before. He looked at me, truly looked, and nodded slowly. Let's go home. And this time, he didn't feel like an enemy. The next morning, sunlight filled Grandpa's study, warming the dust floating in the air. I spread the papers out one last time and understood something deeper than inheritance. This wasn't just money. This was a lifetime of wounds, patched with love, sacrifice, and silence. I read the notebook again, page after page of Grandpa choosing to build, not blame, heal, not expose, lift the next generation instead of drowning in the past. Ray came over later. Mom joined us. For the first time in years, we talked without bitterness, without the invisible bruises of old fights. We cried. We forgave. We let truth stitch us back together. As for the fund, I knew exactly what he'd want. I used a portion for my education because that was his purpose, and the rest I turned into a scholarship in his name, open to students who needed a second chance, the kind he gave our family. In the end, the real inheritance wasn't the money. It was the courage to stop the cycle of anger and secrecy, to choose healing over blame, to take a painful truth and turn it into something that could help others. And somewhere deep inside, I felt Grandpa's presence, almost like a quiet smile in the room, not because I found the fund, but because I finally understood the heart that built it.